War Diary, Eastern Front. August 1941. Today we are supposed to go up against the Russians. My tank crew has done everything necessary and we are in good spirits for the next attack. The order that our commander, Oberfeldwebel Hansen, brought for us from the company briefing is: advance to the next village at height 142 and eliminate pockets of resistance. Despite the losses of the last few days, we are confident we will make a difference with our Erika, which is a Panzer III with a 37mm cannon. We drive about 3 kilometers on old dirt roads to the wide open terrain. An officer of the armored reconnaissance unit briefed us on this situation. At a distance of 5 kilometers, there should be a small village and apparently also Russian soldiers. Because of the danger from the anti-tank guns, the armored scout cars did not want to go any further. So we fan out with 3 Panzer III and go into wedge formation. Right and left are secured with rotated turrets and our commander stands in the turret hatch and observes. I have my eye on the sights and observe the area ahead. 10 minutes later, there's already a bang and the tank on the right, Krause's crew, breaks down. Over the radio, we hear that it was a hit on the track of the right-hand drive. We stop and try to locate the source. The turret swings to the right, and I strain to look through the optics. The row of trees seems suspect, and at the same moment we got machine gun fire from the village. The projectiles bounces off us ineffectively. The 2 armored scout cars have more problems with them. The left tank, Stroh's crew, takes up the firefight and moves forward. Together with the Panzer Grenadiers, we give covering fire. Again a bang, and this time a hit on our turret. Our ears are ringing, but the turret armor and its angle has saved us. But now the anti-tank gun has given itself away. I give the target location and our commander gives the order to fire. A quick succession, 3 shells hit the gun and nothing more steers. The enemy fire from the village becomes weaker and we can approach. By the time we get to the edge of the village, the grenadiers have already suppressed the pockets of resistance and now clearing the small Russian houses. Huts are burning and dead Russians in their earth-brown uniform are everywhere. When the firefight is over, we look at the turret damage. It made a decent dent, but the anti-tank caliber was too small to penetrate. Back at the command post, the grenadiers tell us of 2 more gun emplacements with the dreaded Ratschbum guns, but apparently there was no ammunition for them and the crews had run away. We have been lucky, no losses today. Part 2. Today the repair crew was finally finished with the turret of our Erika. I had hoped that we would get another turret with a 50mm cannon, but that was not yet to bet. So it won't be any easier when we meet the Russian T-34 again. At the moment it is a little quieter in our area, with many planes in the sky flying east. We hear the engines humming and in the distance the explosions of the bombs. We are probably 20 kilometers behind the front as we wait for the next orders. It is to start in the afternoon, forced reconnaissance with an armored reconnaissance vehicle. PSV 222 is the order. The PSW are small and fast but not well armored. We are only supposed to reconnoiter and rush back like the wind. The driver in the SPW is my old friend Willy from the training days. As lookouts, we are supposed to cover the retreat with our air car in case the enemy forces harass our scout car. Mount up and we are off to the front line. Over the radio we hear that in front of us should only be Russian infantry, but there can certainly be a few with anti-tank rifles, so always be careful. The PSW dashes off and travels about 500 meters ahead of us. After 2 kilometers, he turns and comes back. We close up and continue without enemy contact. Flat terrain with small elevations and isolated rows of trees. The terrain rises and we are glad to drive slowly up the hill without taking fire. A row of bushes on the hillside looks suspicious. We see our PSW slowly rolling backwards until he is level with us. Our commander is talking to the commander of the PSW and we are briefed on the situation. Apparently, there is a depression behind the hill. In the hollow lies an artillery position which seems to be confident that they are far behind the front. It is estimated that is half an artillery regiment. Over the radio we call the Stukas for announced they will arrive in 15 minutes. Nevertheless, we want to force Ivan to retreat and so we attack. Our PSW drives around the depression and after 10 minutes a green flare is fired. For us, this is a sign to break through the row of bushes and open fire on the enemy. The 37mm cannon and our bow machine gun both lay down fire. The PSW with its 20mm gun takes the trucks under fire and tries to block their retreat. An unholy mess of exploding guns and vehicles, gasoline barrels and screaming Russians. Shocked by our attack and with little resistance, the poor devils try to save themselves. Finally, the Stukas arrive and drop their bombs into the depression. We get a few untargeted machine gun shots but no heavy hits from the Russian artillery. After 30 minutes, the din is over and whoever is still alive in the depression surrenders and comes toward us with raised hands. But the Russians are not to be trusted. Carefully, our radio operator climbs out of the tank and keeps the Russian at bay. Now we have to wait for the grenadiers to show up. Now we also get out and go towards the Russians with our machine pistols. Horrible what our bullets have done. Over 200 dead and badly wounded Russians lie in a confusion of gun parts and shot-up material. Inhuman screams that make your blood run cold. A Russian comes closer and speaks to us in German. He would be a doctor and he studied in Germany. He wants to help his comrades, and we explain to him that he can rescue the wounded with his 20 people and take them aside. A short time later, he asks us for a pistol to release the heavily wounded from their suffering. Our commander agrees and hands over a pistol and 2 magazines. He is told to hold the gun and ammunition above his head until he is in the hollow. Then he can load and do what he needs to do. That way he can threaten us and we have enough distance not to be in danger. Shot after shot breaks the silence. Smoking, we watch the unreal goings on. When the grenadiers show up, we brief the lieutenant on the situations so that they don't shoot the doctor right away. With smoke-blacked faces, we head back a few kilometers. Our command post has been moved forward and we have been given a new staging area. Part 3. The last days were only marked by advance. Hardly any fighting, except for small skirmishes with the Russians. In the neighboring section, some BTs broke through and tried to destroy the supply units. But our infantry intervened and disabled 4 of the BTs with hand grenades. Our radio operator Heinz hurt his foot. Not enough for a ride home, but he is in the tank anyway. He'll be fine. The weather is still quite acceptable and we are making good progress on the main route. The supplies are still rolling along well, but we must not go too fast so that the supply units can follow. The long cross-country marches do not please our commander at all. It's not good for the equipment, but there seems to be no other way. We stop in a larger clearing and wait for further instructions. Above us we see planes circling and hope that they are our own. Unfortunately not. There is an air raid warning and we batten down in the hatches. With the whooshing sounds, the bombs land between our vehicles. We can start because we don't know who is lying around us in the dirt or under the tank. So we wait until the racket is over. When it gets quieter, we cautiously look out the tank and see a few destroyed trucks and comrades still lying on the ground. A young private is lying a few meters away from us, and I grab my first aid bag to help him. When I get to him, I see that his chest is torn open and his left leg is missing. I try to tie off the leg, but the hole in the chest also seems too big. With eyes widened in horror, he looks at me, probably only 20 years old. He tries to tell me something, but only bubbles and blood come out of his mouth. I hold him until the last bit of life has flowed out of his body and he closes his eyes. Not the first comrade in my arms who has fallen for the fatherland. But it's always bad to have to go through this. I don't envy the medics and I'm glad to be back in the tank soon. With bloody hands, I sit on the turret and smoke until we move on. We lost 8 men, 5 dead and 3 men wounded. Where was our glorious Air Force?